company called Bedrock bought them, worked out a great arrangement with the workers. They paid $80 million. They had an IPO. The value of their stock a few months later was $1.4 billion. This is a period of M&A, of plant rationalization, of new labor contracts at weaker plants. We are definitely, and what happens, what does a banker want? Wants a transaction. So the banker goes to the CEO, who knows for nothing about M&A, and he gives a story to the CEO, how wonderful it would be for you if you have this M&A, you merge, do it, your stock's going to go up. The CEO does it, the merger fails, the CEO gets fired, and the banker walks away with a lot of money. We're going to have a lot of M&A activity in the steel industry. And in China, the municipalities own the steel companies, and they're in a province. So if a municipality in one region merges with another, they're worried that the steel production will shift to the other region and take away their employment in their own region. And municipalities in China get 25% of the value-added tax. Had nothing to do with the steel company profits. So there's not much flexibility in China to have great concentration. But they're going to rationalize. What's going to happen in China? Right now, they're having very high profits, but when the price collapses, the governments will, again, it's a command economy, will grow impatient. They'll go to the companies and they'll let them switch debt for equity, to help retrain workers, to help pay to move out of cities. And in China, when you move a steel plant out of the city, you move in manufacturing, commercial, and residential. So when China has this death spiral in 2020, that's when their capacity will begin to have a big reduction. So far, not much. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Marcus, Greg Spack, and I'm one of the speakers later on 232, so I thought I'd get your views on something before I speak. So my question is this. You talked about how President Trump's policies are starting to incentivize creation of new capacity in the United States, which makes sense. Do you see a contradiction with the goal of reducing overall global capacity and driving up capacity utilization? How do those, or is it a relative issue that doesn't really affect it?
Mercantilism is screwing your trading partners. Mercantilism is putting up barriers to promote industry. When you do it, you get investment. Now back to Mexico, luckily for Mexico, by the time 232 arrived, there had already been massive investment in Mexico. Mexico is now exporting 1.8 or 1.9 million cars net to the United States, importing about 200,000. Mexico in another 3 or 4 years may be exporting another 2 million cars. The U.S. automotive industry will have no growth based on the automotive plants being built in Mexico. But luckily for Mexico, by the way, everybody in the U.S. loves the Mexicans except those at the border. Believe me, there's no prejudice in the United States against Mexico, except on the border towns for good reason. And we'll see what happens in the elections in the United States in a couple of weeks. But pursuing mercantilism is a way to get an economy going, and new trade pacts. I think somehow there'll probably be some accommodation with China, And so what's the difference between Section 232 and true love? Answer, they're the same. They're not forever. Okay. When you read about China, all they're doing, I'm exaggerating, is they're writing about this incredible rise in debt and how the municipalities can't afford it. So who owns the municipalities? The central government. What is the likelihood that a large municipality goes bankrupt in China? I think it's 0. So this talk about excess municipal debt, to me, is nonsense. They can convert it to equity. Also, a great deal of the municipal debt in China is only 1 to 2 years. In 2016, the steel industry in China issued about $30 billion of short-term 6 to 12-month debt. Municipalities could refinance their short-term debt for long-term debt. So from my viewpoint, there's no chance that municipal debt is going to bring down China.
Con esto concluimos la presentación del señor Marcos. Pedimos un fuerte aplauso para él, por favor.
Thank you.
Nos permitimos obsequiarle al señor Marcos, a manera de agradecimiento, un pequeño obsequio representativo de la cultura totonaca, mismo que ha sido elaborado por artesanas de la región del Tajín en Veracruz. A continuación tendremos